Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly dive into the worlds of property and AI technology with me, Mal McCallion. This seventh week, we're going to be focusing on self-employed agents, on the surge in commercial to residential conversions, and just a little piece on the value of the sales part of an estate agent's business. When is it going to recover? When are you going to be able to get a decent multiple for that side of the business? We're also obviously looking at the technology side, a really packed AI bit this week, particularly around, so Anthropic's released a new kind of, it's like a Rightmove V3 feed, if anybody knows what that is, but we'll go deep into that in a sec. We're also looking at how the competition to OpenAI's O1 model is shaping up, both in China and in the US. And also, almost inevitably, going to have a little look at Elon Musk's Grok AI, which is set to release a standalone version soon. Plenty to plow through. Let us get cracking with our property news. So first up, what we want to focus on is the growth in the self-employed agent model. Now, what triggered this week is that there's a report out stating that real estate businesses or property businesses are essentially the second highest growers in terms of registrants or incorporations on Companies House over the last couple of years. So what that means is that, second only to health and social care companies, more and more entrepreneurs are setting up real estate businesses, property businesses, than anything else. Now, obviously that's great news generally for consumers and so on, because what that means is that there is more choice, and it also indicates a healthiness to the sector itself that is attracting these people to come into the area and try and challenge those that are already incumbents. But for me, what I'm quite interested in, more than just the fact that there are these new businesses, is the makeup of these actual businesses. Are they all high street agents? Are they all online agents? Are they all hybrid agents? Are they all self-employed agents? But what's the actual breakdown of this? So again, serendipitously this week, there was a report out by the Federation of Independent Agents, FIA, which is a network of estate agents throughout the UK, run by Graham Locke. And they did a survey. Now, by their own admission, it wasn't necessarily a statistically significant survey. I think it was about 159, I think it was exactly 159 respondents. And what they found was that about 30% of their respondents thought that the self-employed model was going to get up and over 20% of the market in the next 5 years. Okay, so that's pretty significant. That the headline, which was that, kind of covered actually that 40%, so a larger chunk, thought that it was only going to be between 1 and 10%, was going to be commanded by these self-employed agents. But I think it speaks to a trend, and I think it's a really important trend, that actually over the last few years, there has been a significant uptick in self-employed agents and the self-employed model. 20EA figures out last month, October, showed that the market share of exchanges through self-employed agents grew 8.1% in Q3. All right, so that's quarter to quarter. And then over year on year, it was 22.8. All right, so nearly a quarter increase, which is significant, right? In terms of their ability to attract instructions and then to complete on them, obviously is growing. And I think it was earlier on this year, probably maybe February time, that Katie Billany of 20EA, and they've obviously got great stats, they see right across the market. She said that whilst they're about 2.5% of the market, I think at the time, were self-employed agents in terms of activity, that she predicted that would be at least tripled in the next sort of year or two. So getting up to 6% plus. And I think that's really on the money. I think that there is very significant tailwinds to this sector and also reducing headwinds too. I think one of the kind of key attributes and the key attractors of this segment is clearly the lifestyle element. Now, I know a number of self-employed agents. I've spoken to loads of them the last couple of weeks, particularly, including some of the seniors who run these organizations. And you hear the stories, and obviously they're going to paint the best stories. People generating 50, 60,000 pounds per month in terms of revenues, and basically them being able to fit all of this activity around their lifestyle. It's Christmas nativity season coming up, so yes, they can actually make it to those plays that their kids are in, unlike perhaps the rest of us back in the day who might just about run wheezing in the door to catch the last 5 minutes. I think that on holidays and being able to spend proper time away, I think is really attractive, and perhaps particularly for a generation that's coming through, Gen Zs, who are perhaps more used to this flexible arrangements, that actually have perhaps a bit more of a insistence on doing things their own way. That perhaps the historic, the ladder, the career ladder, things that drove others and drove previous generations aren't necessarily there. And the actual landmark life stages, buying a home, things like that, moving out of their parents' home, those things are perhaps delayed for so long that actually now, that belief, that conveyor belt is the way that life should be led, has perhaps fragmented a bit and has perhaps come to mean very little. So that's why I think that this sector kind of plays into that up and coming cohort. Entrepreneurs, those with that spark and that curiosity and that resilience, thinking that actually instead of going to set up a traditional high street estate agency, they're going to actually use one of these models and pick and choose between them. And that's another one of these tailwinds. Is the second one is the actual variation or variability in options for your self-employed model. If you have that bent and you think that this is a way to go, there are a phenomenal amount of opportunities or choices for you, brands to work with. So there's the kind of obvious EXP, I think we've got like 650 individual agents now. You've got LSL, perhaps one of the more traditional estate agents. They've now rolled out their self-employed model under the leadership of Paul Clark, and that looks really good. If you wanted something a little bit more upper markets, then there's By Design, by David Lindley and Co. There are numerous others. Nested's got one, Yopa, of course, at a different end of the market. They're saying that they can help you with a lot of the sort of, if people want to pay up front, then that's a great model that they've got going. So there's just so much that if you were sitting there, you could actually decide to choose. And they all have little variations in terms of the commissions that they pay, in terms of if you recruit other agents to the cause, then do you get a little slice of their revenues and so on and so forth. So that, I think, is another really key driving factor of why people are looking and upping up this particular option as opposed to more traditional estate agency. But the third one, I think, is one of the more controversial, and I think one of the ones that will really come into focus, I think, over the coming months and years. And that's the actual costs of setting up these new companies. To set up as a traditional estate agent or branch on the high street, you're talking perhaps 60, 100,000 upfront before you've even unlocked the door. And then the necessary risks associated with that, the team you've got to pull together, it feels like a kind of heavy uplift. Now, again, I've spoken to amazing agents this week who have done exactly that in the last year and are absolutely thriving and have made a massive impact on their market because they are different, hungry, go-getting, all of that good stuff. And I was at the Negotiator Awards, negotiator on Friday, and again, just full, jam-packed with great estate agents, independents, and the high street is by far and away the dominant model and the most successful model and the highest in terms of award-winning quality model. But I do think, and I do worry a little bit, that actually under the auspices of these new brands or these self-employed brands, that actually the costs are so much less. And particularly, I wonder and worry about how the portals are treating these guys, because it seems that instead of having to pay a four-figure monthly sub to the likes of Rightmove if you set up a high street office, that these guys are paying less than 1,000, some hundreds. And that, I'm sure, will become an increasing focus, because why is it the case that these portals are doing it this way? What are they trying to achieve by essentially subsidizing these self-employed models? Are they looking to skew the market into a position where they're able to deal with just one brand umbrella, and as instead of hundreds, thousands of single branch firms and little entrepreneurs all on their own who they've got to negotiate with separately, cost a lot more to argue with, moan a lot more about pricing and all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you can just convince them all to go under one umbrella and then actually squeeze that umbrella company for more money in due course, then that feels, I'm sure, a lot easier from a Rightmove perspective than having to actually do it individually all the way around, because that's a big overhead. I think that particular part of the equation that is helping and almost driving a lot of people into thinking, instead of paying £2 a month to Rightmove, I can pay less than £1 or whatever. I think that feels like it is a strategic move by the portals, particularly Rightmove, to help people be maneuvered into this particular model as opposed to a more problematic model for them. I think that choice is great. I think that the fact that consumers now are able to either go with somebody that is obviously of the area and works on their own and is the face on the signboard and all that sort of stuff is great. The fact there's high street offices there is great. The fact that there's other models like Yopa and people like that as well. The ones that are not your kind of investor doped startups like Purple Bricks and others that are really, you know, essentially false and fake and don't provide that real genuine service. I think that broadly speaking, the move is great. I think that there needs to be some concern around why the portal see it as in their interest to subsidize these significantly. But overall, I think that it's going to be a real boom time, as the stats have shown, for people wanting to set up in this industry. And I think that can only be good for quality of service and for competition. All right, next up, we are going to have a very quick chat about the surge in commercial to residential conversions. Now, again, this is something that's always been a bit of a passion for me, is about like, how do you increase supply? All right, the more homes we can build and have and that are available for people in the UK, then obviously the healthier people's lives are going to be, the happier they're going to be, and obviously the more the market is going to be working hard to provide people with the homes that they love. Using empty commercial premises, we talked often about the decimation of the high street, and now everyone's working from home, all these big office blocks that are empty, 30-40% of the time. Actually, if we can make better use of that space and convert those into residential, then that's got to be an amazing thing to get done and to get right. There's been a massive 63% increase in change of use applications between 2021 and 2023, and that's according to Direct Line. So that's huge, right? And that gives enormous confidence that actually there's going to be this kind of additional spurt in supply availability, which is going to help people get on the housing ladder and then obviously help them to then make second moves, third moves, etc. I think this is a really important area for focus, and it's great to see that it is actually building really significantly. It shows that places like Somerset and Wakefield, Bristol are the main places that these changes of use applications are being made. And yeah, I just think that it's going to be a significant driver of the industry in the midterm, alongside obviously the government's plans to build these 1.5 million properties across the UK. So really good news there, and yeah, long may that continue. Third story in our property news this week is all about sales businesses. Now, for a long time, sales used to be the dominant part of a sales and lettings estate agency's business in terms of its value. All right, and if you were selling your estate agency, then the multiple of the sales revenue was quite considerably more attractive and higher than the lettings book. Now, obviously, over time, that has switched quite significantly, I think over the last sort of 5 years particularly, where I'm not suggesting that it's worth nothing, but certainly revenue to value is of one-to-one is a standard, I think, at the moment. The lettings businesses, obviously, lettings books have been significantly higher multiples. But I saw that there was an article on Friday in The Negotiator by Adam J. Walker, who sells and is an agent for businesses looking to acquire estate agents. And he was saying that basically it's going to be a couple of years before the value of sales businesses does recover, but it will recover, which I thought was great news. And then I actually bumped into him at the Negotiator conference and we had a good chat. So yeah, look, it feels that side of estate agency, which has long been the sort of Cinderella part, because it's just not, it hasn't delivered as much overall value for people looking to sell their businesses as they might have thought even a few years before that. But yes, as these cycles go, as Adam puts it, then actually this is just going to swing back, and there will be value in these sales books once more. Anybody thinking about selling now might want to hang on for a couple of years just to see if they can build that side of the business back up again. But yes, certainly I think that for a long time people have been selling lettings books, and that's been great. But yeah, no, it's good to hear that there will be value back in that sales book, those sales cycles again. That's it for our property news this week. Next, let's talk technology. So in our tech news this week, the first thing to discuss is a new, and this doesn't sound quite as exciting as it is, I promise, a new protocol. Yes, a protocol for how you can plug your CRM systems, your calendars, all of these disparate bits of tech that you have within your businesses, how you can plug those into LLMs, into large language models, into AI. And it's been brought forward by Anthropic, which is one of the big companies like OpenAI, like Google, like Microsoft in the large language model space. Anthropic's model is called Claude and is really good. Claude Sonnet 3.5 new is probably the best one out there right now. So they have decided to create something called the Model Context Protocol, MCP. Now, the easiest way I can think of describing this is if you think about back and how you get your properties up onto Rightmove or the other portals or even into your own website. You use a feed, all right, and everyone talks about the feed. So you feed your properties up, and that is in a certain format, and that format has always been, since 2001 or 2, the Rightmove V3 format. All right, now Rightmove back in the day, just like Anthropic have done now, created a standard format for all the property data to be sent. And I remember very specifically that in the end at Prime Location back in the early 2000s, we decided to use the Rightmove V3 format because that was what everybody else was using. When we set up the Zoop in 2008, we used the Rightmove V3 format because that was what everybody else is using. So it becomes a default standard. So this is Anthropic's attempt to create that standard that then everyone is going to be using in order to plug things into the various technologies that are going to be available. Now, why is this important to you? So this will mean that people will be using the MCP to link large language models with your CRM systems. Now, I know out there are multiple CRM systems operating for estate agents in the UK, from Repit and Alto to some of the smaller ones. Apex 27 I hear a lot about recently, but then there's also the Streets. You've got Rex, you've got loads. And yeah, many of them are awesome and some of them are not. Many of them are looking at AI, and some of them are not. But what this will do is this will mean essentially that it almost doesn't matter, right? It almost means that these things will just plug in because this protocol will be out and you'll be able to, your AI will be able to then plug into your Repit system, for example, pull data out, analyze it, and do all that sort of funky stuff. Obviously, here at Model Prop, that's something that's super exciting because this is what we're here to do, is to help estate and lettings agents to navigate this world of AI. And as these things come into play, then it's going to be possible to, essentially analyze your data like you cannot imagine right now. We're doing a project for an agent where we are analyzing their data for the last 15 years and pulling out the details of people who have not moved. And then, so they essentially had a valuation, let's say 10 months ago, 2 years ago, still haven't moved. So actually, can you then go back and speak to them, find out why, and see if you can get them to put their properties on the market now before March and stamp duty and all that sort of thing. So it's a really fascinating project. It also helps us with this whole idea of propensity AI, propensity to move. How can AI help you to understand more about the chimney pots in your particular area and who is about to press the button and go, do you know what, I think, should we get married? Sorry, shall we move house? Yes, let's move house, as people sitting on the sofa. So this is something that I think is going to be really powerful. It's going to be really relevant to absolutely everybody. Probably nobody's going to see it because it'll be sitting in the background, but that connectivity is going to change the game and going to help people to see AI in their day-to-day lives more than ever before. So really powerful news, really excited about Anthropic's MCP. And even if you're not, because it's a protocol and it sounds really boring, then it's going to help you. All right, next story, all about fast following. Now, OpenAI launched their O1, which O is Orion 1 model earlier this year, late summertime. And the idea with this is that it takes time to think. Okay, so as opposed to ChatGPT, which is all about the chat side of things, is all about the thinking side of things. So there is a book, and I've mentioned this, I'm sure, a number of times on this podcast, called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Now, it is awesome. But this idea of thinking fast and thinking slow is exactly what is present in these two distinct OpenAI models. ChatGPT 4, as we're now on 4.0, there is rumors that ChatGPT 5 is coming as early next year. That's all about kind of instant. So you say something and it comes back with something really quickly. And that's going to be really important. So that thinking fast side of things is, once you asked it, it will very quickly come back with an answer. And as humans, we do the same, right? We know the capital of France is. We know where to find the time. Whereas if we're asked what the capital of Guatemala is, then that might take us a little bit longer to think about and potentially to go and find and work out. And I don't know the answer to that, by the way. I will go and find out now because I need to. So what this thinking fast side does is the ChatGPT for stuff. It's what you get with the most large language models right now. It's the magic bit that we all saw in November the 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT 3.5 launched, and everyone went, what the hell does this do? It's amazing. So it is now 2 years since that fateful day, and the world has changed quite significantly. But these large language models that we use, or we have used up to this point, have been very chatty and very quick, but occasionally get things wrong, as we know. So this stupid word hallucinating, which basically means bullshitting, that's something that has been a problem with large language models. It will become less of a problem and continue to become less of a problem over time until I think that they'll solve it for all like the most rare cases. But yes, so it's been able to give quick answers, but occasionally duff answers. O1, which is the thinking slow bit, this is your kind of the human sort of deeper brain where you're like really thinking hard about potential contrasting ideas and playing them off against each other and then trying to work through to what the right solution is. So O1 does this. So it's actually, you ask it a question, it will sit and think. And it will tell you, I'm thinking, and it will tell you that it's gone through these particular ideas, and you can ask all about it's working out. And it's really good for that. But it's very much a slower paced, still much faster than the human, like unbelievably much faster than the human. But it will actually do some deep thinking and check itself. It's called chain of thought reasoning, where it will check out all of its different steps along the way. So this O1 has arrived, as I say, a few months ago, and now we've got some fast followers, people who are second, third to market, but actually are making their version of O1, of the slow thinking models, much better. And the answers they give are much more appropriate, and they use a lot less tokens. And tokens, if you remember, are essentially the currency of all of this AI, and every token that is used, that there is a charge for it and a cost for it. So the less tokens you can use, then the more you can afford to put these questions through these big models. Yes, so Alibaba has come along. So this is one of China's big tech companies, and it has launched QWQ, which probably should be pronounced quick, QWQ, and then also from China, DeepSeek is out last week, and now Google DeepMind is getting into the game. And you can see, I think, in the next few weeks, there will be more and more of these slower models, more thinking models coming into play that are going to help much more with strategy. And kind of, for example, if you're thinking like, what's 2025 going to be like, then you can ask these bigger models to really think through how you might deal with some facts that you know are coming down the track, or some likelihoods that are going to arise as well. So really good technology, an important technology that we're going to be using more and more, but it's certainly going to mean that we will start to be quite discerning about what models we use for which particular tasks. So lots going on. The more competitors that are out there, again, the better, and it's going to be quite the bun fight to see who comes out on top. Next, in our technology news, we are going over to our old friend, Elon Musk. He is rumored to be launching Grok AI. So this is his Twitter/X AI that is supposed to be quite jokey, supposed to be free of what he calls the woke mind virus, and is going to be basically, it's able to, and it takes the piss and it's all that sort of stuff, but it's a little bit, it's not as good as the other models, or has never been as good as the other models like ChatGPT and so on, much to his chagrin. However, he is convinced that it's going to get even better. He's raising another $5 billion, which will mean that he's raised $11 billion, which I think is almost second only to OpenAI. So he's in the game, and he's definitely gunning to win. Obviously, he's now part of he's going to become part of the American government in the new year, running his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. And which obviously is going to give him another kind of boost in terms of his ability to get things done, I'm sure, and also his businesses being potentially prioritized and preferenced by the government as well, which is going to put some of the other AI businesses out of joint a little bit, I'm sure. But yes, so it's going to be a standalone version of his Grok. Instead of you having to use Twitter/X, because it seems that everybody is running, not everybody, certain types of people are running away from X and going to Blue Sky or Mastodon or Threads, which are the competitors, because of his highly political slants these days. So it's so X is no longer the place that it was in terms of visitors. This week saw Reddit overtake it in terms of visitor numbers. And if you've never used Reddit, then it is basically where a lot of sort of gamers end up chatting about random things. And it's very much a young, or well, sort of probably a Gen Z thing. But the fact that it's overtaken X/Twitter shows just how unbusy Twitter/X has become. So now Musk is launching this out as a standalone. You can go to websites, just like with ChatGPT, just like with Gemini, and you can use it from there. And that is obviously going to enable more people to use it who might otherwise not want to use it on X. Although I'm assuming that the same kind of people that don't want to use it on X, or sorry, don't want to use X because of Musk's profile, probably are going to use Grok, whether it's standalone or not, because of Musk's profile. However, more accessibility is always a good thing. I'm sure that there will be people who use it, such as me, who wouldn't otherwise use it, and I'm interested in having a little play with it. But because on Twitter/X, you had to also be a subscriber that paid for your blue tick or whatever. I can't remember what hoop he had to jump through, but it was something. That is his new drive, and it's going to be interesting to see how much uptake happens as a result of it. I'm sure it will be not necessarily forced on the government, but its ability to be part of the Trump administration's plans, its AI, I think is going to be huge, and that's probably why this is happening now, so that everybody doesn't have to use Grok on Twitter. They can actually just use it as a standalone entity, and it will probably be advised/enforced by the Trump administration for all government employees to use that one, as opposed to any competitors. Alrighty, that is our news sections for this week. Just a very quick moment to talk about our tool of the week. So this week's tool of the week is ElevenLabs. Now, ElevenLabs has got a new feature that essentially is a notebook LM competitor. Now, those who have been listening regularly will know how much I love notebook LM from Google. It's a really great system. Basically, you can just plug in documents like the budget, as I did a month or so ago, and then ask it to produce a little podcast focusing on the property sections of it. And then a few minutes later, it will give you this wonderful 10-minute, 16-minute long segment that is just a chat between two AIs, really natural, about what's in the budget for or about property. So it's really good. So ElevenLabs has come out with a competitor that's available on your mobile phone. So one of the really cool things about this ElevenLabs version is it's got loads of different voices in it, whereas Google's Notebook LM has just got two. It's able to do things on the fly, and it's really good. It's something that helps you to understand things better, because hearing two people talking about it is always better than you just sitting there and thinking on your own. So that, I think, is really good, really powerful. It's from ElevenLabs. It's their Reader app, and the Reader app itself is really good. You can basically throw in any article, and this saves me so much time. You can throw in articles, and if you're on the move, then essentially it will read them to you. Right? So if you're in the car, then you can queue up some things for it to read to you, so that you don't have to read them yourself. So that you don't have to take your eyes off the road, which is always a good thing, right? It's a really good app on its own, but now it's got this additional Notebook LM type feature. It's not as good as Notebook LM. All right, it's good, and they've obviously used Notebook LM as a kind of idea for all of this, but it is something that I think is a package that the ElevenLabs Reader app, I think, is really good. And that would be the thing that I would have a little play around with if I was you this week. See if it's something that can help you with your productivity, because it certainly helped with mine. All right, and that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the Property AI Report. I'm Mal McCallion. I will be back again next week with even more from the worlds of property and AI. I look forward to catching up then. Have a great week. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.